I, Nishit,
and I, Swasti,
welcome you to the third plenary session of the 24th Nirma International Conference on Management 2021.
Before we proceed, I request everyone to kindly keep their mics muted. The questions regarding the session will be addressed at the end of the session.
The keynote speakers for the session are Mr. M.R. Das, Dr. Andrea Cardillo, and Mr. Sanjay Kumar Verma, who will brief us on building humane organizations. The chair for the session is the first speaker for the session is Mr. M.R. Das. Shri M.R. Das is the Chief General Manager of HRD and Retail Academy at Head Office of Indian Oil Corporation, one of the highest ranked Fortune 500 companies of India. A postgraduate in HR PGC HRM from XLRI Jamshedpur and BE Mechanical from BIT Mesra, Shri Das is a technocrat turned HR practitioner. He has rich experience of nearly 3 decades, ranging from heading business units as plant manager, steering sales functions in one state, to HR head of Eastern Region and Western Region in IOCL and national head of HRD vertical of head office of IOCL marketing division. He also heads the Retail Academy of Indian Oil Corporation and has delivered nearly 1.2 million micro-learning nuggets during the recent lockdown period. He has published 3 research papers in the National Journal and is a life member of NHRDN and FEIL. His research in the area of spirituality at the workplace has been recognized by international scholars, and he has recently been inducted as an editorial board member of the New York-based international journal, Humanities and Social Sciences.
His area of interest, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
His area of interest entails industrial relations, competency-based HR, emotional competence, e-learning, mentoring, domestic inquiry, and spirituality in the workplace and gender equality. He is currently pursuing his doctorate from IIT ISM, Dhanbad, on competency modeling for salespersons using behavioral event interviews. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Swasti. Thank you, Nitesh ji, Mr. Hardik Bhatt, and the entire fraternity, educational fraternity of Nirma and organization of NICOM 2021.
So the next speaker for the session is Mr. Andrea Cardillo, Dr. Andrea Cardillo. Dr. Andrea is managing partner of TPC Leadership in Italy. He has experience in consulting, training, and coaching in the field of leadership and people skills development. As a coach trainer and mentor coach, Dr. Cardillo delivers internationally accredited programs, helping managers integrate coaching skills into their leadership styles and training leaders to become professional executive coaches. Dr. Cardillo has worked as an executive team coach and is experienced in providing experiential learning and team building interventions. He has collaborated in Italy and abroad with public, private, and third sector organizations, primarily in working with managers, directors, and C-levels from diverse cultural and professional backgrounds. His clients include lead organizations in management consulting, utility, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, food, banking, and international governmental organizations within the UN system.
Prior to becoming a coach, Dr. Cardillo was originally trained in philosophy and has had a PhD in philosophy and theory of human sciences from Istituto Italiano di Scienze Umane. Dr. Cardillo has cultivated expertise in academic education, lecturing on moral philosophy and economical ethics at the University of Naples. Books and articles are published by some of the main Italian publishing houses. Dr. Cardillo has worked as a freelance consultant in the field of corporate social responsibility and as a business coach to support individual managers and directors to develop core leadership skills. Dr. Cardillo works on a voluntary basis for WYSC International, a not-for-profit organization sponsored by the United Nations to develop young leaders across the planet. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your introduction. I'm really glad to be today with you So thank you very much for the invitation to be part of this forum today. And I'm very, very excited about our conversation related to humane organizations and what they are and how we create them. Very looking forward to the conversation. And again, thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
The next speaker for the session is Dr. Sanjay Kumar Verma. Dr. Sanjay Kumar is Vice President HR at Johnson Controls Hitachi India Ltd. He's a highly qualified HR specialist who possesses 3 decades of experience in the HR field. He has worked with organizations such as ICO Tractors, TFE Ltd, Hitachi Home and Life Solutions, and Microlink Ltd. He specializes in HR functions like competencies, productivity, talent management, key business HR initiatives, change management, performance management, retention culture building, etc. He did his PGDRM in Management HR from the Institute of Rural Management, AND, and his BA in Economics from Patna University. According to his colleagues, Mr. Sanjay has such a personality that if there is a tremendous pressure and the entire world is bouncing, can see Mr. Sanjay still smiling and handling the crisis efficiently in his own style. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think the last sentence really touched me. Thank you. And the theme is very interesting. How are we building humane organizations? So it gave us a chance to reflect upon and come out with few instances which we are eager to share with you all. Thanks to all the professors of Nirma who have been like guides for us. We have a long association with Nirma University, and our managers go and get trained in various management development programs. We spend a lot of time with the professors on working out our developmental plans, and in a way, I like for all of the students, Nirma is your home. So for JCH employees also, many of them, they feel that it is their second home. Many of our employees have spent a lot of time at studying various things at Nirma. Thank you for giving me opportunity for this discussion today, for the presence, and I look forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to introduce our chair of the session, Dr. Nitesh Bhatt. Dr. Bhatt is a professor and chair of Information Management area and has more than 20 years of experience in academia, corporate training and research. In 1998, he was awarded as the best faculty of NIIT in North India. He is also credited with a good number of research papers and management cases.
I think let us conclude. Let us listen to our experts. That is better. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I will now hand over the session to Dr. Bhatt.
Thank you. Thank you. So good afternoon or almost good evening to all the friends from India. And Mr. Andrea, good morning. Once again, I welcome all of you. Happy New Year to all of you. And I welcome all of you to this third plenary session of 24th NICOM. The theme of this conference is Industry 4.0, Reinventing Human Resource Management for Organizational Effectiveness. In last 2 days, we have learned what is Industry 4.0, and as a management student, right, all of us have been hearing a lot about what this Industry 4.0 is in terms of technology intervention, right, in the wake of various internal and external environmental issues, right. So the changes are required in human being, it's required in industry practices, it's required in societal practices, so that we not only grow but we sustain also, right. And the often used words are efficiency and effectiveness. So in this context, we are talking about organizational effectiveness. Theme for this particular plenary session is building humane organization, right. While task is important, technology is important, but at the same time, as an organization and its practices, okay, can we become more humane, emotional, compassionate, right? So with this particular background, right, we are having three eminent panelists, right, with us, two from India, one from abroad, more precisely from Italy, right? So it's better to listen to them. And I first request Mr. M.R. Das, right, who is a very, very senior HR professional and currently working as a Chief General Manager with Indian Oil Corporation Limited. So when we say data is the new oil, he is actually in the field of oil industry. So maybe he can share the light on both the oil. So I welcome you, Mr. Das, and over to you. And you have around 30 minutes for you to touch on three different aspects. How Indian Oil is into various human-centric policies, specifically when the current pandemic is going on. So what has been the response? What is the human diversity which you witness in Indian Oil Corporation? And let's say what are the CSR or employee engagement kind of practices and so. So you have around 30 minutes, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, and I really look forward for a very meaningful conversation with my co-speakers, Mr. Sanjay Kumar Verma and Andrea from Italy, and of course Mr. Bhatt also. So let me start with what is to be human. Let us start with what is to be human in the context of education, because we are talking mostly to, I think, fraternity from education side, academic fraternity. So my first slide speaks about what is it take to be human. So, you know, in this context, I recently came across a letter which came to me, and this letter, I think, slide it is reflected. Let me read that letter. This letter was found at the end of World War II, and the letter was in Nazi concentration camp. It is addressed to teachers. Now, let me read out the letter. Dear teachers, I am a survivor of concentration camp. My eyes saw what no man should witness. Gas chambers built by learned engineers, children poisoned by educated physicians, infants killed by trained nurses, women and babies shot and burned by high school and college graduates. So, I am suspicious of education. My request is, help your students become human. Your efforts must never produce learned monsters, skilled psychopaths, educated illiterates. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are important only if they serve towards making children more human. I think this sets the tone what it means to be human in, you know, educational setup. So now let me take it to the organizations. What is a human organization? See, I have just summarized in 3 lines. An organization can be said to be human only when it creates value for its customers or users through human people, products, processes with intent of making positive difference to society at large. Now, normally when we talk of being human, we think that we are talking only about how are we human to our people, our employees. No, your product, your inputs and processes also has to be equally human. You cannot put your employees to a process which is detrimental to his health, right? And accordingly, inputs also. Let me give an example. Now, COVID vaccines are coming. If somebody recycles these syringes and uses it second time, the process will be very, very wrong. Now, let me give a very, very live example. Since Mr. Bhatt has said, let us take the context from COVID situations. Now, as all of you know, Serum Institute of India, Pune, it has come out with the cheapest COVID vaccine with a commitment to supply half the humanity in a year, right? And they have a choice of producing more profitable products. These they will be producing at $3 to $4, whereas they have products which can cost or fetch them more than that. That is $20 to $25. to produce a Covishield. So they have preferred to produce Covishield because that is what humanity demands as on date. So that is something which is really, really humane. Now, human organizations are made of human people only. Now you can have a check, reality check. Are you really human? Because only human people will make human organizations. So there is a check. Are you helping with smile? That is H. And U is, am I learning every day and also facilitating it to our employees or people who come across? Are you also magnanimous and amiable? The fourth is amiable. That is, you like meeting people and befriending people. And fourth is neurotically balanced. That is, am I also emotionally intelligent? Am I able to connect emotionally also? I think our colleague, Mr. Andrea from Italy, will be talking more on emotional intelligence. So he'll not be talking. So these are few checklists that am I really human? Because only human people can make human organization. Now let me tell you, the morning I was listening to a session of NICOM 2021 only, and one of the speakers was telling that the business, the only purpose of business is making profit. I strongly disagree. See, in fact, if all of you, most of you are students of management, and I think all management students have learned what is Maslow's need hierarchy. If you can see the colorful pyramid on the left-hand side, that is survival, safety, social esteem, and self-recognition. This is all about Maslow's need hierarchy. Friends, I have in my published paper proposed this, apart from this need pyramid, I have also proposed a purpose pyramid. And if you juxtapose them, that becomes a need purpose rhombus. See, while we are pursuing the need of survival, we also cater to perpetuity. So let me come from the top. When somebody is self-actualized, he basically has reached the pinnacle of his career and he doesn't have any need. But then he serves a purpose of inspiring the next generation. So people who have self-actualized also, people like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, they even Sachin Tendulkar for that reason, they inspire next generation of players of people. The next generation from top, next layer from the top is esteem. Right? If you are a national player, you in a sports category, you have esteem. People like Dhoni or Tendulkar, for that reason, great players, great Olympians come in this. Here, they can add prosperity to the society they are in. And the people, the next layer is social. The school teachers, and then people in organized sectors are in social, they have met their social need, they live in decent society. They should also contribute to the progress of the society they live in. Maybe if teachers can contribute by teaching students free of cost, some people who cannot afford. And then the next level is security and safety. Here people can have their security and safety need met, but at the same time, parallelly, they can also make positive difference to their nearby by let us say somebody has died, they can stand by them. They cannot afford to maybe economically support, but they can stand by them. And the last one is survival, maybe unorganized sector laborers or beggars. They're all here there, but let me tell you, they are also contributing to humanity by perpetuity of people, by the workforce they are producing. That serves the humanity as a labor class. And at times, in fact, many times they are donating blood. If they can't do anything, they are donating blood. So what I'm trying to tell is each level, people can contribute to some purpose also while meeting their need. Now let me tell you how, in few ways, my organization, that is Indian Oil, acted humane during COVID-19 crisis. Friends, this crisis is of such a huge, impact that next generation may call AC and BC not as after Christ or before Christ, but after Corona and before Corona. It's a huge impact. That I think the times to come we will witness the entire dimension which it has changed. Now let me tell you how we acted today. all HR officers across the country, they contacted, since old people were more vulnerable, we contacted every 3 months. During these last 9 months, we have contacted all 16,000 retired employees, whether they are okay. And if they need some support, the support was extended. We also gave a COVID kit, which comprised of oximeter, glucometer, and contactless thermometer, costing 6,500 to all employees. Most of the people who were having a comorbidity, pregnancy, or small child were allowed work from home during entire lockdown period. Now comes our marketing segment. Our plant and oil depots did not stop for a day, because we come under essential services, and our people realize that if you stop this, there will be panic, because once people are in house, they need kitchen to be on. So our LPG delivery boys, they kept delivering 25 lakh cylinders per day to the entire country. And we also came forward to help them by ex gratia of 5 lakhs in case any of the dependent of any contract workers died during the COVID. We had a monitoring cell headed by our Director HR, and he met everybody every day to assess the risk and such as mitigation plan. We did not deduct absence wage deduction for any of the contract laborers for first 3 months. Virtual yoga sessions and health talk was organized weekly, and all of us on an individual basis, we paid full salary to our maids who did not come during this time. So these were few ways we came forward. In fact, in all our retail outlets, we also fed the migrant laborers who were passing through. You can see these foods being distributed at our retail outlets to migrant laborers who were traveling thousands of kilometers on foot. We also donated COVID testing equipment to JJ Hospital, Mumbai, and also 13 number of ambulances for transporting COVID patients in Mumbai. And then we also distributed 40 lakh food packets, and then face masks 18.7 lakhs, sanitizers 1.77 lakhs, testing equipment 16 numbers, and PP kit 15 numbers. So these are few ways we are trying to be human during this. We supported our ground warriors also by giving them insurance, delivery boys, our retail outlet farm attendants, TT crews, and then patrolling guards. We, as I said, 5 lakhs of ex gratia, and we also provided full month salary. And then till now we had 22 deaths of our corona warriors. We have released money ex gratia amount of 5 lakhs for each and every cases. So these are few ways we were. I think I should be meeting time also. So this is first round of my points which I have made, and few ways how we were human during this period. So I'll be stop sharing, and thank you, and I will pass on to the next speaker.
So good input in terms of your collaborative efforts for COVID, and we really appreciate that. So our sincere salute. I request Mr. Andrea to take over, please.
Yes, thank you very much. And I really appreciated the presentation of Mr. Das. I feel very aligned with the philosophy behind what he shared. I think the element of humane organizations is very interesting today. Also because we are entering a phase of business organization and business models which strongly leverage on new technologies. So we speak about Industry 4.0. We speak about people working in smart working, working in virtual spaces. And TPC Leadership ourselves, we are a virtual organization. So just in the last 20 years, we made the decision to have zero impact. So because we are a consulting firm, so we don't really need to have offices and big buildings and so on. And so we've been fostering since the beginning a smart working and a flexible lifestyle for our people. But with all the new technologies arriving on the scene, artificial intelligence and virtual workspaces, machine learning, I think there is a question if this technology is going to create risks for the creation of humane organizations, or is going to provide new opportunities. And I do have a sense that we are currently facing the possibility of really entering new opportunities for creating more humane organizations. I think, 60 years ago, organizations were seen very much as machines to be well oiled and programmed. And so lots of the effort was about creating processes which could be efficient, and then monitoring how the processes were working. And because organizations were understood as big machines to be programmed and managed, of course, there was the risk for people to feel like a cog in the machine, or to feel that they had to play a repetitive role rather than bring the whole of themselves with their creativity, their emotions, and so on. And so I think if you look at a bit of a traditional way of looking at organizations, or old way, the risk for alienation and disengagement was high as you thought about organizations this way. But those organizations were created to operate in business environments which were relatively stable and predictable. And of course, if the environment is stable and predictable, you need predictability inside, and just efficiency, and just do better the things that we're doing already well. But nowadays, business environments are very, very different. And this is also what we're experiencing as consultants all across the planet. There is an increasing volatility in the markets. There is an increasing complexity, uncertainty. I think the COVID crisis has just boosted these dimensions and these elements. And so organizations need to be, in their own business strategy, much more adaptable, malleable. They need to be evolving if they want really to succeed and create value for their stakeholders in the short and the long run. And I think digital technologies are giving us the chance to work in a much more flexible way. What we're experiencing in different industry sectors, for example, is that not only some of the old barriers between the professional self and the private self are becoming more shaded thanks to smart working, for example, people working from home and having more chance to balance private life and working life. But it's also, thanks to machine learning and artificial intelligence, many of the repetitive tasks that both contributors and managers were focusing on, now they can be automatized. And if those can be automatized, this means that we can dedicate time to network with other people, to collaborate with other people, to be creative together, to foster innovation, and do the things that the human brain can just do so well. Now, I think the shift if you think in terms of metaphor for organizations, there's a big shift from thinking the organization as a machine to be fine-tuned towards thinking about organizations as living organisms. And of course, if the organization is a complex living entity, it grows and develops and thrives according to its own logics and values and directions. And so I think there is a big shift also in the way we look at leadership, or humane leadership wanting to create this kind of organizations. If an organization is perceived as a complex being, a living organism which continuously adapts to the environment to make sure that it can satisfy its needs and deliver for the long run, and it needs to be an organization which enables individual to thrive and which focuses highly on culture as a key driver to create long-term success. Now, organizations focusing on culture are organizations, for example, that where you see leadership focusing very much on listening, for example. And you might read in different business literature how much this idea of listening to what's emerging in the organization, the direction the culture is going, or even listening to what's the emerging purpose of the organization is becoming big part of the role of leaders. Leaders are less and less controllers and more facilitators, enablers, coaches for both individual teams and I would say entire systems to discover their potential and actualize their potential. I think this kind of leadership is also much more agile than it used to be. So there is much less effort on processes and structuring processes and policies. Of course, this also depends on the industry sector. And there is much more effort in nourishing the right culture and values in the organization, because that provides a much more flexible approach to the way the organization deals with its stakeholders and its environment. And I think we have experienced with COVID in particular that one of the big challenges is also leading from a place of trust rather than leading from a place of fear. Thanks to neurosciences, and nowadays we know how pervasive can fear be as a feeling, as an emotion, and what impact it has on the brain, reducing its capacity to think strategically, to be compassionate, to include the point of view of other people. And I think it is in terms of creating, this sense of mutual understanding and leading from a place of trust, which organizations, at least the most advanced organizations, are trying to integrate the idea of being deliberately developmental. So working on the capacity of both leaders and employees to make collective sense of their experience together and to think more systemically in a way which integrates different points of view, but also integrates the organization within its system. And I think things like emotional intelligence, growing emotional intelligent organizations, and systemic thinking are really core features of organizations which aspire to be humane. Organizations which can really create a strong sense of consistency also between the brand values, the values of the brand, so the external advertising and brand positioning, and the internal culture. If I need to bring an example, I think, for example, in Italy, but also worldwide, there is a very nice example of this direction, which is Gucci, the fashion brand. In 2014, Gucci appointed the new CEO, Marco Bizzarri, which really envisioned for Gucci to be the voice of self-expression, right? So like a champion of self-expression as a brand. And so Marco Bizzarri basically started to foster cross-gender fashion collections and banned the use of fur from the brand. In 2019, just last year, Gucci declared that it had gone completely carbon neutral, and that was partnering with the UN project, the RED project, to reduce the carbon footprint. And even Marco Bizzarri launched a CEO Carbon Neutral Challenge initiative to invite other organizations in the sector to become carbon neutral in the whole business model, including the supply chain. And of course, in the last years, between 2015 and 2019, Gucci has been growing from 4 million to almost billions to almost from 4 billions to 10 billions in 2019. So this has been a huge shift with an organization really investing on ethics and delivering results. Now, how is this reflected internally in the culture of the organization? When I went to Gucci for the first time, I was expecting to enter, some buildings with people, very polished, all dressed roughly the same, very elegant. But actually, what I found surprised me, because when I entered the business, I noticed that the dress code was that there was no dress code. And so I had an immediate sense that they were really living within the culture, the values of the brand, that everyone could express themselves the way they wanted. And then I learned that this idea of amplifying individuality was also brought in by the Gucci amplifiers, their competency and value system, which is integrated in all the things we do, from performance management to selection and recruitment to talent development. And they also leverage a lot on empathy. So as soon as someone enters Gucci, they have a masterclass on empathy. And the first time management training is really focused on empathy and the Gucci amplifiers. And also people are invited, for example, to volunteer 4 or 5 days a year, sponsored by the company, so that they can really create a sense of strong integration between the company culture and the social environment around. And I think this really breaks the idea of the fashion industry as an ivory tower, and fosters the idea of investing on culture, internal culture, as a mechanism to create a strong consistency between the way we do things, the strategy and the values of the brand and the operational model. Now, while no organization is flawless, I think Gucci is a very nice example of how you can move in that direction, because being a humane organization should never be a fact. It needs to stay as a continuous aspiration, because that's the role of values and purpose. It's about driving ourselves towards our potential and the best version of ourselves. So not to settle, but actually to continue to aspire to be more and more humane. I'll stop here for now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Andrea. And while you shared a lot of good inputs, but your connect with that Gucci example was really wonderful. Okay, which shows that ethics and values, okay, are important, but it helps the organization to enhance the brand value, and which results in better financials also. So very good example, specifically for a lot of youngsters, right, who are here, right? They can learn this concept very well. So I request now Mr. Sanjay Verma to take over and share his insights about how Johnson Control Hitachi, right, transformed itself into a human organization and connected with the larger society as a whole. Mr. Sanjay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to Mr. Das and Mr. Andrea for very enriching, sharing of their knowledge and wisdom. There is a small presentation, very small, I think 4 slides or something, which I want to present and I want to talk, and then major part of it I would like to keep it interactive in terms of question answer. This is our organization, Johnson Control Hitachi. We are based in a remote area of Gujarat, which is around 40 kilometers from Ahmedabad, a place called Kadi, which used to be a village. Now it is not exactly a village. It has become a small town. This was a very small company 25 years back, and it was acquired by Hitachi. Now there is a joint venture along with Johnson Control, which is US-based organization, and Hitachi. So our parents are US and Japan, 2 mighty countries. Companies belonging to these countries are parent companies. So, and we are Indian. So we are making air conditioners, around 10 lakh ACs we make in this place, and we sell all over India in the brand name of Hitachi. So that is the organization. Next, please. I have been in this organization for more than 20 years, and so is the case of most of our managers who are working here. My colleagues are here on this call. They are also here for long term. And, last 5 years, if I say, hardly any manager would have left the organization. So our attrition at the manager and above level is almost 0, maybe 1 or 2%. So, that shows that there's something in the organization which makes people stay for a long period. Now, a few things that I would like to talk about, which reflects upon how humane we are or how we are taking care of employees, to be very specific. COVID crisis last 6 months or so has really changed the entire world. All of us have gone through the toughest time in our life, and it has actually tested all the skills of a manager. Now, if we feel that we are very good HR managers, this last 6 months really tested how good we are as HR managers or how good we are as an organization. Now, closing down is very easy. One order came, on 23rd of March, entire country went for a lockdown, and you next day morning everything is locked. So we also locked our plant at that point of time. Just to give you a background, we were entering into peak season. That was end of March. Now, for a AC industry, that is the most critical time of the year when we start selling in very big numbers. So we had a plan to sell almost 100,000 ACs in the end of March, and it so happened that 23rd March lockdown came, and suddenly we lost 100,000 ACs out from our sales, which is a big thing for us. It is almost 10% of our business lost in first month. Now, next April month was complete washout, complete close down. So again, a loss of more than 100,000 ACs, and May also almost similar. So locking down in peak summer season costed us very, very heavily, because while it is supposed to be, it is considered as a luxury in India. It is not an essential product. So our plant was closed, our services were closed. So we were under lock for complete 1 month, and we lost almost 50% of our business gone, because it was coincidentally the peak summer season. Now, when we lose 50% of the business in a year, all of us can imagine what kind of pressures the organization goes through. When for 2 months the earning is zero, and all our fixed expenses are there, the manpower and all expenses, we need to continue with the employment of all the employees. Now the humane part came, that first we took a decision that we will continue to bear the pressure. Of course, there was a huge financial pressure on the organization, but we took a conscious call not to cut any salary or not to remove any employee. Now the anxiety levels were very, very high, because being a AC company, everybody was really worried that we have lost the complete season, we have lost the year, and who is going to help us or who is going to save us? So that then came the phase of the management to give assurance to employees that have patience, we will wait and let the signals come. The first signal came on, I think, 24th of April, when Gujarat government gave the permission to start the plant. And we were one of the first to start the plant operations with a limited manpower. The surprise was everybody was willing to come back. Every employee was willing, and that time, the corona crisis has started, shaping up, and the numbers were going up. So, there were a lot of fear in the atmosphere, but the resilience the employees demonstrated, everywhere we got full support from employees, workers, staff, engineers, managers, all were ready to come back on day one. So 24th April, we were able to start the plant operations, of course, with full safety protocol followed. And by 10th of May, if you recall, that time every state was declaring one by one when they need to open up how much. So on a daily basis, we were reviewing and opening up our operations. By 10th of May, we started all our operations, because it was a peak summer. And we were also worried what is happening to the people who want to have service of the ACs done, or somebody wants to buy a new AC. And so we wanted to serve the customers. At the same time, we also want to restart the business. Now, the point to be noted is that when for 2 months we continued to have patience, we worked on all the financial aspects and ensured that employees don't go through unnecessary trouble or anxiety. When we restarted the operations, it was a good bounce back, everything came back to normal at a very fast speed. None of the sales or service employees even raised any question whether they are feeling unsafe to go to the market or meet the customers. And by October, we came back to complete normal situation in terms of our business. So if the organization is able to support the employees, like Mr. Das presented, the way IOC went and helped the delivery boys and the first frontline people, it really pays well. The employees really come back and work with, I think, double determination, and the connect goes up much more. So, while that was a time when many organizations were not able to sustain the financial pressure and went through some tough calls, we were very lucky to continue without having any problem for our employees. Next, please. Now, restarting was a challenge, and also it was a challenge, still it is a challenge to continue to handle the COVID management. So we have set up a COVID response team. All the protocols are being followed strictly. So, we have around 2,000 people working in the factory today, and every employee, whether in the plant or in the field offices, 2 times temperature measurement is done. There are strict quarantine norms which we have followed, and till date we have 80 employees who have got positive cases. So the employee who gets positive, as well as all the close contact tracing is done, and the entire database is managed and monitored, so that every person who is in close contact with any positive case also is given 14 days of quarantine. So, the organization is not trying to save that in terms of offering paid leave or something. It's a complete leave for the employee for 14 days. Work from home became a reality. So when we restarted our operations, we came with a policy of giving work from home on a flexible basis of 50 to 70% employees. So some of the plant employees who need to come to plant on a regular basis, other than that, many office-based employees have been given work from home flexibility, and slowly we have come to now almost 50% of the employees attending the offices on a regular basis by rotation, so that everybody gets a chance to avail a balance of work from home and the office work. There was a lot of pressure on the hospitalization processes. Fortunately, very few employees were hospitalized. Out of 80, I think 4 or 5 only got hospitalized. Remaining were under home observation only, and medical aid support and all other support which is required to make employees comfortable, their family members comfortable. This all was done. So it looks like almost now, with the numbers going down, active cases going down in India, our own tracking shows that the cases have gone down or going down. It looks like there's a little bit of comfort now, and seems that the big crisis is over. A tremendous amount of teamwork was seen in entire organization in fighting this crisis till now. And there were times when all of us were very worried. Our chief of the organization also got corona positive, and my team member IR head got corona positive. So when such episodes happen, suddenly everybody gets worried. But we are able to handle it. We are able to fight it out. So hopefully now, with the vaccine being available in future and cases going down, I think a very, very bitter phase should be history. We all hope it should be history very soon. And learnings, there are plenty of learnings, in terms of how do we handle a crisis, how do we show we are humane, how do we really live together and come out of the crisis. The only thing what we appeal to employees to have a leave donation, because we wanted to have something to in terms of financials, and there also we asked the junior employees not to give more than 15 leaves as a donation, while the seniors donated more than 40 also. So we made a kind of a balancing there also, and we got full support when employees donated their leaves to as a gesture to have some financial improvement. So this was on Corona. Now there are two more things which I would like to touch upon in terms of being humane organization. Diversity, which is again, because this place is located in a remote area, and we had very few females in the organization. In fact, before 5 years, there was practically zero. So we started recruiting engineers and managers and chartered accountants from all areas, females. Today we have got 31 female employees working in the plant, and 4 years this number has become double. We take care of all the safety aspects. We make them comfortable in terms of working environment, and there are forums to ensure that all the females are connected with each other. They are enjoying their work, and also they have a work-life balance. So this has been a little bit of challenge, because like in our city offices, it's not very difficult to have more female employees, but in a plant location, it has its challenges. But as a mandate, we are working on it, and we are going to further increase these numbers much more. Now, next. Another challenge was how to get female workers in the plant, because being a traditional area, we had no female workers in the plant. Now, this is kind of a difficult start, because if there are 1,500 or 2,000 workers, all males working in a plant, the first batch of females, they have a real challenge to start working in that environment. So our team did a great job in recruiting these females from the nearby villages, onboarding them, giving them confidence that it is safe, they are comfortable, and today we have a full line of assembly line. Full assembly line is run by females. So there are many of them who are ITI qualified females, and they are all living in nearby villages, and many of them had no source of income. So for them, it's a great thing to get a job in this organization and work, and the best thing is that today we have more than 200. We have almost 250 female operators coming from the nearby villages, and the best thing is that assembly line has got better productivity, and also it is visually much more better compared to the lines which is run by males. So they are making a difference, and when you see them working in the plant or walking through the corridors or eating lunch in the canteen, you really get satisfied to see how happy they are to work and have that financial independence and the satisfaction. And we have plans to upgrade these numbers also, and upgrade their the technical skills also. So these are some of the numbers are not very big, but basically I just wanted to showcase in a small way how we are trying to make a difference in the area where we are living, and touching upon on the lives of people. Our CSR projects, again, our philosophy is to run the CSR projects in the nearby villages, so that the beneficiaries are the are the workers who are working in our factory and the nearby villages only. Some projects we have gone outside of Gujarat also. So we started our CSR projects in terms of health. So we have ambulance which takes care of the primary health requirements in the nearby villages. When we started working on it along with the district administration, we came to know that the under Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the toilets which were being made in villages, a lot of companies were giving grants, but this money was not actually getting converted into making the toilets. There were a lot of places when the toilets were not made even after giving the money. So we started making it directly. So we have tie-up with an agency, and we work with the villages directly, identify the place along with the users, and make the toilets. So if you see in the picture on the toilet also, we have written our company's name. Now, this is to ensure that these toilets are made properly and maintained and used, so that every money that we are spending, it should go to the real beneficiary. 2% of the profit for us is not a very big amount of money. In a year, we spend around 2 crore, but we want to ensure that it goes to the real beneficiaries. So more than 800 toilets have been constructed. 10 kilometers of the area in nearby place has become ODF now. So they are free from open defecation. Now we also constructed school buildings. We started on a skill building of employees. So like air conditioning is our forte. So we train the local villagers in the AC repair in the local ITI along with the tie-up with the ITI. And after training, they get employment with the dealers and other places. And some of them, they come and work in our plant also. So it's like we are working on empowering the local, youth, the young guys, the females, the children who are not able to read after a certain class. We are giving them books and all that, and we are also the quality of classrooms are very, very bad. If you go to the village schools, they don't have toilets in the school. They don't have place to sit. It's all like broken down and no facilities. So we have constructed classrooms so that children are able to have a comfortable place to study. We also did some sponsorship of para athletes, and that has also given us good results. So basically, the idea is that whatever we can do in a small way, let's ensure that it goes to the real beneficiaries and it makes a difference in the life of people. Whether it is the women empowerment or the youth or children. So this is and for our own employees, always be very, very conscious of not creating any kind of I would say disturbance in the life. Everybody wants to be a safe working environment which can sustain their livelihoods. So that we are by far, even after this crisis, we are able to ensure results are many. As I told you, we have one of the best stability in the organization. We have very high engagement scores. Our engagement scores every year are more than 90. And the customers also have rewarded us, and we also are able to get a good market share by serving the customers with the Hitachi product and services. So that is all. I wanted to keep it very brief, and some more discussions can happen when we have question answers. There is a small video on CSR, so if time permits, we can go through that also in the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Verma. You talked about various social connect and employee engagement activities, and you also showed the outcome of that. In last 5 years, the attrition has been very, very low. And during this pandemic also, two wonderful examples you mentioned that not even a single instance where the salary was cut or no employee has been retrenched or sacked or so. So these are really exemplary and inspirational for all of us. And a lot of students are also here. So as a future manager, you can definitely take a leaf out of these inputs, right? This will be useful for all of you. Because of these wonderful inputs, let me inform the three speakers that in terms of participant attrition also, it's very, very low. In last 1 hour, we started with 66 participants and we are still continuing with that. And I'm sure whoever has left, they have again joined back. So thanks for your wonderful inputs. And I once again come back to Mr. Das and request you to share your insights about both the topics, diversity as well as CSR parts. And I request you to please conclude that in next 15 minutes or so. Mr. Das.
Okay. So now I think very lucid presentation by co-speaker Mr. Sanjay also, and he very lucidly explained how Hitachi has been taking care of its people, and then also CSR. So while cooling the customers, they are also cooling the villagers in a different way. So that is what I was talking about. So there cannot be only need, there has to be purpose also, and purpose has to be taking care of the people at large. So very wonderful. Of course, he also told the amount may be small, but then the intent was great. So that is what makes a great organization, and I think Hitachi is on a great path. So now let me share my presentation on gender diversity. Yeah, when I talk about gender diversity, in fact, we will be limiting to the diversity of male and female. And Mr. Nitesh, I will like to have one response immediately through chat box. If people or students, when we talk of gender diversity, the most common mistake I have seen is people are not able to differentiate between gender and sex. Now there is a difference. And when we talk of gender diversity and the bigger concepts, the fundamental has to be very, very clear. So I will like any student, if he can or she can, or maybe organizer, if somebody can comment on difference between gender and sex. Swasti, or you have the co-host powers. Swasti was there, and one more guy was there, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are here.
Swasti, can you tell me what is the difference between gender and sex?
So basically, sir, sex is more onto a biological part of a human, and gender is a social construct, as what I feel. And also, this is something that one of the participants, Shalin Kothari, has written.
I think you deserve a compliment. 9 out of 10 people are not able to differentiate between gender and sex, and you have got it right. Thank you very much, Swasti. And the person who has written in the chat box, I really compliment them. Gender is about the perception we have about sex, and sex is the biological arrangement God has given. So we try to reduce the gap in the perception, not in the sex. Right? That is why these programs are called gender sensitization, not sex sensitization. So with having that clear, let me move on to what McKinsey says. See, the world workforce, the God has made us equal despite all atrocities. The ratio of male and female across the world is 50-50. But see, the contribution of male in world GDP is 37%, and if you come to Indian GDP, it is only 17%. So the contribution to GDP is very, very low, and India has a lot of scope. Now, as far as talent is concerned, their talent is equally distributed as the number. Now let us take example of Indian Olympic team which went to Rio. What happened if the three girls had not brought any medal? We would have come without any medal in the last Olympics. So talent is there, and it is high time that we should not embrace gender diversity only for namesake or for saying that for compliance of sustainable development goals. Talent is equally distributed. Let us harness the talent. You cannot afford, the organizations cannot afford to leave the talent lying in the half the humanity. So it has to be, it is now a business imperative that we look for gender diversity. So this is how in US, as reported by McKinsey, the funnel, the people entering in the year 2015, so 45% female used to enter in the organization, and in the C-suite only 17% used to be there. So why there is a gap? I have analyzed, I have done some research on this, and I'll share. So now from 2015, as you can see on the screen, 2015 to 2020, now entry, as far as entry is concerned, it is almost same, 45 to 47, 48. But the exit or C-suite occupation has gone up from 17 to 21%. But still, there is a huge gap. 47% of workforce entering, and then C-suite is occupied only by 21%. Now, what is the derailer? What happens? That I'll come to that later. But then gender diversity, as reported by Harvard Business Review in a report, is now a business imperative. As Mr. Sanjay was telling, that productivity in the assembly line manned by women has gone up. Let me tell you, when they come to their workplace, they are more sincere. I have also experienced. So these are few things which HBR has reported, that they bring difference in thought perspective. They are more creative, having more innovative powers. They improve adherence. I have seen this. They also boost collaboration. Now Generation Z wants that there should be a gender diversity in the workplace also. They understand customer better, and they also help improve the retention and improve the reputation. Today, if your gender diversity, gender parity score is better, you can be a better workplace for your rating purpose also. But I am trying to insist that it has gone beyond rating. It is now business imperative. Now, how do we do this? We have to have a goal, as Mr. Sanjay was also telling, that now you see 0 to 250 workmen, they have increased. That is the vision of a leader, that they are going to increase numbers every day. You have to embrace females at workplace like family members, and leaders to champion the cause. It is the organization leader who has to champion this cause. You have to remove gender bias, and SH means sexual harassment. Now this is also an issue which we will be dealing in the next slide. Sexual Harassment Act has been made now in India. It is punishable both by internal committee and by IPCs. So this is also an obstacle, and this has to be dealt strongly, and there has to be a zero tolerance on this. There has to be women leadership program so that more number of them can occupy the C-suite, and there is an opportunity to return. See, once they come back from maternity, we should give them opportunity to return. So now let us see how we are doing a few of our initiatives. The person there is our Director HR in blue jacket, blue trouser, this thing suit, and we have a plan called Arohi, wherein we are making our leaders grow through a management development program. It is dedicated only to females all across the country, and we have a specific development program for females. Now, we are also gone to society to develop a female workforce. We do see that is Super 30. I think most of you have heard Mr. Anand Kumar of Patna organizing Super 30. Now we are sponsoring in 4 states Super 30 females who are being trained, coached for engineering. Coaching is provided for engineering entrance exams like JEE and NEET, and many of them have qualified. I'll come to that in later slides. How many of them have qualified? So these are people, these are female remote areas belonging to BPL families, and we coach them at 30 people. Many of them, more than 100, have become now engineers. Now, as I will be discussing two things, there are two major derailers why there is less percentage in CSUT. One is maternity period, another is gender bias and sexual harassment. Now, we have to have a definite plan for both of these. Now, I have come across 3 organizations, and we have also almost reached a state where we have to treat maternity period as a working period, and also the performance report of this has to be extrapolated from there prior to leave period. So that will take care of this, and they have to be welcomed when they come back. Now, gender bias is an issue. This is more of a cultural issue, and here females have to come forward and they have to be bold enough to raise their voice and to tell the audience the act has come only because of sacrifice of 2 females. One is Visakha guidelines has come only because of Bhauri Devi of Rajasthan, who fought against the landlords, so-called landlords, and then Nirbhaya. These are the 2 females who have sacrificed. So one of the ways is to curb sexual harassment is to come forward and speak. And the act is really, really very, very stringent. All organizations must follow the dictum of the act and empower women. Now, this is about gender diversity. Now, I'll be loading my different slides on CSR and stop my side of talk. So the next set of slides will be on CSR, how we are engaged into CSR activities as organization. Now, I will be a little faster as indicated by Mr. Bhatt. See, in last 2 decades, Indian Oil has done CSR activity of 2,541 crores. The year-wise breakup is given. We have touched almost all areas like drinking water, education, healthcare. PMUI is, that Yojana whereby we have given free cylinders to LPG cylinders to village women. And these are the various ways we have touched the lives. Janadev is for education, 2.8 lakhs scholarships we have given. This is number, not amount. Now we have also tied up with IIT Mumbai for preparing solar lamps, which we provide to school children of villages. Cleanliness, we have touched 63.7 lakhs people. Clean water tanks, 9.76 lakhs. Skill development, 1.8 lakhs. Women empowerment, 19.3. And healthcare, 12.3 lakhs, and others, 5.9 lakhs. Now, this is what is PMUI. We have given free LPG cylinder and LPG connection to villagers. We also, as a such iconic places, we have adopted certain iconic places and created, facilities over there to make things, recycle the plastic bottles and cleanliness of the place. This is Indian Oil Videshi Super 30. These girls have qualified as engineers, and now 117 of them have become engineers. Now we have also created vegetable cellar at Leh. Here, potatoes are kept in the cellar and during the winter, and it is sold in the summertime. This is solar urja. This is solar lamps which we have given to school children, and this we have partnered with IIT Mumbai. They have given the technology, and village women have been made mechanic. They have been trained by IIT Mumbai, and these village women do the assembly as well as maintenance of this, and thereby they earn also. Naidisa is another our educational initiatives for school providing infrastructure to school children. Q-methane, these are community at Nari Kurwar community who are untouchables. We have provided toilets for them and also community kitchen in Tamil Nadu. Now this is Bandicoot. Throughout the country, this is robotic scavenger. This is robotic scavenger we have provided, so that this manhole is cleaned not by people entering into it, but this robot does the cleaning. We have also created milk bank. This is mother milk bank, and which is provided to undernourished or malnourished children. So these are the few ways. In fact, we have tried to touch our lives of people through our CSR activities. I'll stop sharing, and we can take a few questions during question and answer session. I think now it is over to Mr. Bhatt so that the next speaker can be allowed.
Sir, you summarized your diversity initiative and CSR activity very, very lucidly. And spectrum of activities you mentioned, but particularly the two activities touched me by heart, and that is your soul initiative and that human scavenger, that robot part, the Bandicoot initiative, right? That I could really see the spark on the faces of those two kids, right? So hats off to you, and we sincerely salute you and IOCL for that. So with this, I go to our next speaker, Mr. Andrea, and I request you to please share your initiative with regard to diversity and CSR, please. And I request you to please conclude in 15 minutes. Mr. Andrea.
Great, thank you very much. So first of all, very impressed by the spectrum of initiatives and the cases that the other two speakers brought related to both diversity and inclusion policies and CSR. I think in touching the themes of diversity and inclusion in particular, I would like to bring you a little bit our own perspective, our own take. As we shared before, we are specialized in leadership, in helping organizations to shape leadership cultures through which both business and the human beings can thrive, can express the best of themselves. So our take on DNI is very much about thinking and helping organizations to create inclusive leadership strategies. And so it's about what do we mean with inclusive leadership strategies? What kind of mindset does it take? What kind of way of thinking does it take so that it is then effectively translated into organizational policies, initiatives, but also, the subtle elements of the culture, which are more related to the way of being or the way of thinking and feeling around things. Now what I, will try to emphasize in my intervention is how we have experienced in the last year an increasing focus on working on layers of diversity rather than focusing on specific kinds of diversity, but also how important it is for companies to really clarify the motivation they have in investing in DNI initiatives, because according to their motivation, different strategies come out, and how important it is also to create the right governance around these initiatives. Usually these are, some big themes we touch when we consult organizations in the field. And I'll make an example of a big organization in Italy, which is doing interesting work in that direction. So I think the first thing that I need to share is that we still don't really know how to be inclusive. Reality is that on the scale that we are experiencing today across the planet, I think our societies have never been so diverse in history. And there has never been so much attention and importance dedicated to the topic of, bringing everyone in, including everyone, but also allowing every individual to be the whole of themselves, not to have to leave some parts of themselves apart. And so I need to say, even in Europe, the topic is relatively new in our history, even if, especially in Northern Europe, much has been done so far. What we've been experiencing in the last years is that the whole stream of DNI initiatives started with the idea of addressing some macroscopic problems, like, for example, the gender pay gap, or, for example, another big topic when the whole field started was about the internationalization of companies and how you could bring different cultures together. And how you could get everyone to feel included. But nowadays, there is a bit of a trend in Europe to speak more about working with layers of diversity. And so creating cultures where people are not just conscious about a specific kind of diversity, for example, gender or national cultures and so on, but they train themselves and their cultures to recognize how biases can create microaggressions or micro inequalities in different domains across different layers of diversity. So, for example, across a very invisible layer of diversity, which is the inner core of human being, personality. For example, personality style, cognitive style, values and beliefs, or more kind of like the dimension of ourselves, which is visible, but we can't do anything about, which may include race, a physical appearance, or gender in all its possible declinations, or even physical ability and sexual orientation, or some external dimensions like, for example, social status, social class, marital status, experience gains, kind of background I come from, or, for example, religion. So these are things that we have some control about, but there are even subtler dimensions, because you can have micro inequalities even related, for example, to management status and management cultures, or in some organizations, which division you come from, or which business function you come from. This creates how much you are listened to or not listened to, or the work location, or the kind of contract. For example, we often work with the UN organizations, which largely leverage on consultants to fill the gaps in the workforce, which they cannot fill with long-term contracts. And this creates micro inequalities between different professionals doing similar kind of job. So I think the trend in Europe is to train, in particular, leaders to recognize how these different layers are creating dynamics, and to train them to develop, awareness of what happens for themselves. For example, when they're recruiting or when designing policies, about what they're seeing or not seeing, what's influencing their decisions, but also how their decisions then get translated into management practices and organizational structures, which tend to reinforce some of those micro inequalities. And so it's not only recognizing what's not working, but it's also about creating a culture of micro affirmations. So cultures where diversity is really acknowledged, recognized, and somehow celebrated, so that everyone can bring the best of themselves to the table. I think the other very important element when working with leaders is that, to be entirely honest, still DNI initiatives often are seen just as HR initiatives. And I say just, because often this means that then they don't seem to be really relevant for the business, right? For the part selling or creating the products and so on. And so a big part of the work we do is consult and challenge top managers to inquire their own motivations to invest in DNI initiatives. For example, why are you doing it? Is it for branding reasons, for the brand reputation, or for employer branding? That's okay, but this takes a very specific road to DNI initiatives. Or you're doing it for ethical reasons, just because you believe it's the right thing to do, and there is no specific business return on investment for what you're doing, and this takes a different road. Or you're doing it because you consider that diversity in center industries is a key enabler for the execution of strategy, and you need diversity because you need difference, creativity, innovation, and so on. Or sometimes, what are you trying to do? Just fix specific problems. Then you do not need a complete DNI strategy, but just very specific initiatives. So this element of clarifying the motivations, it is in our experience very, very important, because from these questions depend how much the business, who really has, power and authority in our organization, then backs up the DNI initiatives and integrates them into a culture and a way of working, which is sustainable over time. Usually, when there is a strong commitment, there is also a very clear translation of the top management sponsorship in a governance structures, which then drive this kind of initiative forward. So let me give you an example with a bigger Italian company, for example. Assicurazioni Generali is our biggest insurance company. It's one of the top 10 in the world. So it's a multinational business. We are speaking about an organization founded in 1831, so very old one. 72,000 employees, 95 billion revenue. And the organization, you can imagine, is coming from a high level of complexity and bureaucracy, even just considering the kind of business industry they are in. So they started to invest in very interesting initiatives in the field, for example, of gender inequality and LGBT. This has been their main focus in the last years. And in order to create the right sponsorship, in a way that these initiatives could really shape the culture, they decided to establish a DNI council with very senior managers coming from the business. So the message was, this is not an HR initiative. We are shaping the culture for the present and the future because we need more inclusion. And this is our ethical stand in relation to these elements. And then, if this was happening at the top, they have replicated from a governance perspective at the lower level another structure, which is what they call a Dni Community of Practice, which again works cross business and cross division and includes, of course, DNI specialists, more coming from an HR background, but it includes, in particular, people coming from different areas of the business and different functions and divisions, which are interested in contributing to shaping the culture. And so that's what they call the DNI champions in their business. And so again, strong leadership, strong governance from the top, and empowerment for whoever wants to contribute to play a role in this direction. I think it's a really nice case from this perspective, and it's a really nice example of how sponsorship and leadership again is playing an important role. And I believe this idea of leadership is becoming more and more important as our world becomes more complex. And this touches also the theme of CSR, which is the other important element. You heard me mentioning at the beginning that it's important for businesses nowadays to create strong consistency between the brand values and the culture, the internal culture. I think this is an emerging need. Probably, like what's happening with social media, the private persona and the public persona are getting unified somehow. And I think this is happening for brands and organizations too. And I think this is also why CSR has been changing in the last years. I started my career as a consultant in business ethics and working in CSR initiatives. I think it was the early 2000s. And at the time, CSR was really, in Europe, was really seen as, in the beginning, was a bit the idea of giving society some payback for the externalities of the business models and the operations of the businesses. And then it turned into more of a rather than shareholder-centered strategic approach, a stakeholder-centered strategic approach. So the idea of creating partnership and connections and nourishing relationships with all the different stakeholders inside and outside of the organization. But still, in a traditional way of looking at CSR, you had business strategy, business model, plus CSR initiatives. Now, what we are seeing nowadays, especially in most innovative companies, is a shift towards what Kramer and Porter are called a shared value. So the idea of integrating CSR concerns, or if you want, social impact concerns, within the core business, within the core strategy of the organization. And this is why we are assisting in these days, for example, to organizations inquiring deeper and deeper into their why, their sense of purpose. So you have, for example, large management firms like the Boston Consulting Group, which bought Bright House, a specialized consulting company, which focuses on helping other companies to distill their sense of purpose and communicate their sense of purpose, the why they do what they do. So it's not the mission, it's why we are engaged with this mission. There was a research in 2019 by Alan Murray showing that 7% of CEOs of Fortune 500 believe that companies should focus only on profits and not on other concerns. So the majority of CEOs of the biggest company are already integrating this idea of integrating social concerns and social purposes in the strategy. In 2019, there was a study from McKinsey which demonstrated that 82% of respondents between managers and contributors believed that it was important for the company to have a clear purpose statement. So something that people could really integrate in their culture and that could shape the strategy. So I need to say, this is also a personal story at TPC Leadership. We were founded in 2000 in London, and we've been always investing in CSR initiative. So part of our annual revenue goes to sponsoring educational projects all around the world, in particular working with WISE International, which provides free leadership development programs for emerging leaders all across the planet. And so the company, beyond money, was also donating and scholarships. It's also been donating hundreds and hundreds of hours of volunteer work to the charities that we're sponsoring. But when I became global chairman in 2016, we noticed that notwithstanding, our CSR initiative, there was still something missing in our culture, and we felt that the mission and vision didn't feel so inspiring anymore. There was something disconnected. And so we started asking everyone in the company what was their source of inspiration, their why to engage with our business, which led to creating our own purpose statement and manifesto in the organization, which nowadays is at the base of how we measure partner against values, what is the strategic focus of the business. In these days, we are discussing, which clients we prioritize or not prioritize in terms of working with. How we measure client satisfaction, what kind of leadership we're advocating for, what kind of business initiatives we are advocating for, and so on. So working with on a manifesto or a sense of or a purpose as an internal document helped us not only to create strong consistency between the brand and the culture, but even more as becoming a bit of a golden compass to orient our strategic decisions. So it has a direct implication in terms of business. And this has been our story, but I'm also consulting at the moment, for example, a big global organization in the tire industry, and they are going through a very similar path. And it's interesting to see how this is happening across industry in Europe. So there is uncertainty in the markets, uncertainty in the strategies, and to face all this uncertainty, they started inquiring more deeply about the strengths of the organization, the life-giving forces of the organization, why people were doing what they were doing, and crafted their own purpose statement from which now we are creating, all the different initiatives in terms of HR, but also they are also integrating their purpose statement into the way they're doing business and the strategy from now on. I think this is a bit of a trend. And I think, this idea of shared value or purpose-oriented organizations is also what we're going to see CSR evolving towards probably in the next 20 years. And I feel very excited about this. And it seems to characterize a very, very deep shift in the way we look at the scopes of business. So I really resonate with the idea of the pyramids. A business is not only about the bottom line, but it's about integrating different scopes, including self-actualization, service, and a joint sense of purpose, which goes beyond the specific interests of the organization and includes societies and environment around us. I'll stop here. And
yeah. So thank you, Dr. Andrea. So you shared your insights and lot of research which you have conducted during your consulting experience, your insights. While you were presenting your ideas, there was a lot of exchange going on through chat. And I'm thankful to Mr. Das and Mr. Sanjay who were responding. However, during this period, there was one question which was addressed to you, and let me ask you at this moment. So here is our PhD student, Miss Poonam Jha. She is asking you, how can we develop more human leadership culture in organizations without compromising on ethics and profitability during the pandemic times?
I think, yeah, I saw the question. I think it's a fascinating question. And I think the answer is, especially when we are in crisis, in a situation of crisis like COVID, then employees look at their leaders to see how much consistency there is behind the proclaimed values and sense of purpose. So I would say investing on purpose and values and ethics is even more important in times of pandemics or in times of crisis or in times of downturn, like in this case, because if we show that there is no consistency in those moments, then we lose the best people in our organization. The best ones, the ones who have a choice, the ones who are more skilled, the ones who are most passionate, they will migrate towards different shores. And actually what we want to do is show that we are consistent, that our concerns are real, and actually engage the best hearts and minds to help our organization to stick together, in particular when it's most difficult. And I've never seen an organization working like this, not delivering results in the medium and long run.
Thank you very much. So participants, if we have questions, maybe we can take one or two. And I will request the experts to answer them very quickly. I request the participants, if we have questions, we can take one or two more. I think there are enough inputs, and I can see contentment on the part of the participants, right? So it's a time to conclude. Mr. Sanjay Verma has shared 2 videos, and I assure you, sir, we will upload it, those videos along with the video of these proceedings on our cloud platform, which will be accessible to all the participants. They can see those at their leisure time and so. So friends, in last 1 hour and 45 minutes, we had a wonderful interaction and deliberation by 3 stalwarts, right? It's a Nirma International Conference on Management, and we could not have a better plenary, right? All the 3 experts were really legendary, right? And 3 companies are actually international and global in stature with a huge footprint. So Mr. Andrea is definitely from Italy, but other 2 experts, right? While they are Indian, but they represent cross-cultural organization with wide footprint, and the examples which they shared also, the insights which they shared also were truly global in nature. And when they were making presentations, they were talking about the case of their own organization. But I was really wondering, how could they get time to quote McKinsey and a lot of other research organization? And they were very, very up to date in terms of their research and readings also. So hats off to 3 of you. In terms of summarization, it's very difficult for me, but as a moderator, some keywords which emerged: emotional intelligence, resilience, agility, compassion, governance, inclusivity, connect with the larger purpose, governance, society, right? So if you connect with the people, if you connect with the planet, the 3rd P, that is profit, will come automatically, right? So people and the planet, and it will automatically lead to the profit. And very contemporary example Mr. Andrea shared, that of Gucci and so, and of course the other examples of Indian Oil Corporation, right, and Johnson Control. So capitalism is important, but can we have a compassionate capitalism, right? Very, very important. Another thing, the theme of this conference, Industry 4.0, right? It's about artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, robotics, yes. So while computers are having intelligence now, and there is a new term that is called as cognitive computing. Okay, so intelligence along with emotion. So when machines are becoming intelligent and also are embracing emotion, we as a human being, how can we leave our emotion, our compassion, right, our connect with our fellow human being, and so we are human being. It's a better to be human. Being human is also equally important, and if individual, right, embrace these human qualities, organization definitely will become a human organization. And so Institute of Management, Nirma University, in last few years or 7-8 years or so, we have partnered with Johnson Hitachi as well as Indian Oil Corporation on various forums, whether it is management development program, whether it is some institute seminar, whether it is CEO lecture series, whether it is student projects, and so, right. Probably we are engaging with Mr. Andrea, right, and TPC leadership for the first time, but you would like to continue with this kind of engagement and association in future also, right? This is very, very important. There was a lot of talk around emotion and compassion, and so I would like to conclude this plenary session with a Hindi couplet. I'm sure all of you will appreciate, and to Andrea I will explain to you later. So this Hindi couplet is as follows. यूं तो हर आंख आज यहां पर रोती है, यूं तो हर आंख आज यहां पर रोती है, हर बूंद मगर अश्क नहीं होती है। यूं तो हर आंख आज यहां पर रोती है, हर बूंद मगर अश्क नहीं होती है, पर देख कर रो दे जो जमाने का गम, उस आंख से बहते आंसू नहीं, उससे तो बहते मोती हैं। So this was the gist of what our expert shared, and I, on my own behalf, NICOM Committee, Institute of Management, Nirma University, we are grateful to all the three stalwarts for sharing your valuable time, and we look forward to have you in many more forums in the future. Hats off to all of you. I bow in front of all of you, and big round of applause for all of them virtually. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All the best.